You're watching the Isaiah Factor Uncensored.
And welcome back to the second half hour, The Factor Uncensored. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Now, we all know technology is advancing from AI to robotics. And now Elon Musk is telling his investors soon we could say bye-bye to doctors. Let's take a look.
Optimists will ultimately be better than the best human surgeon with a level of precision that isn't possible, that is beyond human. So I think that's a pretty wild concept.
Now we have two doctors here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about it with us on our roundtable. We have Dr. Abdullah Kudrath and Dr. Tim Wan. You both saw Mr. Musk talk about his new robot Prime, Optimus. Or is it Optimus? Yeah, Optimus Prime is
the Transformers.
The Transformers. All right, Optimus. Okay. So, Dr. Tim Wan, what do you think about him saying that if you want to solve the world's problems when it comes to healthcare, it's not universal healthcare, it's everyone having one of his robots?
So, to begin with, we're starting to see some of what is art imitating life. So he's producing this idea that AI is going to be the future for making all of these decisions. And the problem is the human factor. When you're trying to get a computer to analyze, there are a lot of, movies that talk about, can we do this? Can we have that? Can you tell me this? And they'll diagnose. But the human factor is the one piece that cannot be replaced. The mobility part of it, you can't have a robot stand and actually help you move. They may have to do it for you, but to actually have somebody instruct you on how to do it, yeah, you can do it with, some form of somebody on a screen. But when it comes down to moving your limbs, they're painful. A computer trying to determine how does that feel, it's going to be kind of tough for optimists to kind of help us in that.
And Dr. Kudrath, when you think about the simplest thing that you guys do, say the bedside manner, caring about a patient, that's going to be a nightmare for artificial intelligence or a robot. Even if they program it in, it won't be genuine.
Well, I think there's going to be a transition period for sure, but I do believe that there is one thing that's always true, and that is everything becomes obsolete. Everything. So that does include doctors, attorneys, news show hosts. It'll all become obsolete. And that's, I know it's tough news, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just evolution as technology evolves. Even that doctor robot will become obsolete when we no longer need our bodies for whatever reason, right? So the tricky part is the transition, because I'll test AI, I'll give it an x-ray, I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And it'll confidently be wrong. And then I'll say, are you sure that's a fracture, or could that be a growth plate in an adolescent patient? It says, oh, you're right, there is no fracture. But if I was a patient and I took that first answer, I would be very confused and misled. So while I do think eventually the robot will do just fine at doing my job, I think we have to be very, very careful in the transition up until that point, because it could cause more harm than good.
And that's a good point you make, Dr. Kudrath. Can we afford the margin of error that we may get, or that learning curve that we may get from artificial intelligence and robots? Now, it's interesting that you bring this up, that you said you've actually tested AI when it comes to your industry, being a doctor.
Yeah, all the time. And it's frequently wrong. And it's very helpful at times, right? But it will sometimes pull from the internet. So unless you say, hey, only give me a scientific answer, it may give you old wives' tales. And then even when I told it, hey, you're a radiologist, read this x-ray, it confidently was blatantly wrong. And when I said, are you sure about that? Double check this and think about this. And it said, oh, that's right. It went from there is a fracture to there is no fracture. So I know that because I'm a doctor, but a lot of laymen may put a lot of false confidence in the system. But again, I think it's only a matter of time before it gets there. I'm not worried about it. My cost of living will go down if I don't have to pay for a doctor myself, or an attorney, or an engineer, or a repairman. There's going to be some growing pains, but I don't think it's anything to be in denial of or afraid of. It's just we have to be careful.
All right, Dr. Tim Wan, your thoughts about what Dr. Kudrath says it's eventually coming. We can't get away from it. it will catch up with us as it is, as we typically see with technology.
Well, that's the other thing about technology. Technology is a tool. Your iPhone, your Android, everything is a tool. It can help in the way that you're doing, any type of therapeutics. But at the end of the day, when you ask a patient what do they want to see, there's a transition on new technologies and anything. But if you ask a patient what would they rather have, there are complaints of, well, number one, if you have somebody on the screen, because telehealth, depending on the conversation, telehealth can be so impersonal that they don't even want to do that. They'd rather go in. So there's still that human component where individuals do want that hands on and to see someone to get that smile, to get that feeling of confidence. But if you have a robot or AI, if you will, yes, as a tool, it can be helpful. I agree. There are questions of how does it pull this information? But at the end of the day, you still want, I'm talking patient from a patient standpoint, you still want that human touch and you still want that person to give you that information.
And before we wrap up, guys, because Dr. Kudrat brought up this issue about AI and people going to AI and ChatGPT and the various others that are out there for answers, does that bother you? Does that concern you when people go and essentially they used to Google this? Now they put it into ChatGPT and they truly believe in it, Dr. Kudrat.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I like it when people take involvement in their health and they do a little bit of research. But human nature is to always assume the worst. So ChatGPT, just like a doctor, right, or it's just like Google, will give you, oh, that cough can be a common cold all the way to lung cancer. Human nature is to assume you have lung cancer if you don't know how to put things into context, if you don't know how to look at all the clues together. So it does freak a lot of people out, just like Google did and does. So, but I don't mind it. I like to go through it with my patients when they come into the ER, freaked out that they have this terrible disease. Of course, I want to make sure they don't have a terrible disease. I'm not going to laugh at that assumption, but I can walk them through on why it's probably not the case.
Dr. Tim Waugh, wrap us up here as we close up. Your thoughts about your patients, individuals out there using artificial intelligence and coming to you like Dr. Kudrat says, with the worst disease in the world, and they don't know what to do about it.
Well, again, I welcome it as well because at least an informed patient is a patient that's aware that there's something that they need to get some help from. So I would rather someone come in as opposed, with, hey, I was looking at this, is this possible? And their interest, as opposed to somebody coming in, sitting down and saying, fix me. So, in so many words, it again, I still can reiterate, and I want to reiterate that AI is a tool. Yes, it's coming. Yes, it's going to be here. We're not going to get rid of it. But to try to transition it to replace us, I'm kind of questionable about that.
All right, we'll see what happens. Elon Musk is working on it, guys. So be alert, be aware about it. We want to thank you both for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. And of course, we'll see what happens in the future when it comes to technology. It's always changing by leaps and bounds, and we just have to be ready as a society. Thank you guys for joining us.